Welcome back to the Story Hour. Be sure to subscribe and hit that bell if you want to know when the next episode will be. Allison.
Brian, we are here now back with Juliana, VR artist. And when we left our conversation last time, we were just on the cusp of diving in to liminal space. And I was wondering, for those who don't know what that is, Juliana, whether you could give some kind of definition, at least from your perspective.
Uh, Hi, it's good to be back again. So let's see, the liminal space, kind of like it's almost like that area between A and B.
Okay.
So for me, it's kind of like a really long, dark hallway, you know, and you don't know what the heck is in that hallway because you're walking through that hallway, and who knows is going to pop out. I'm thinking of my school. And it also reminds me of like that little area between the conscious and the subconscious. So
Mhm.
it's that space where you don't even really know what is actually being transpired between the two.
So, why, as an artist and a VR artist, is that space so interesting to you?
I think before I can answer that is what an artist does and has been doing throughout history is to define or to capture a sense of what reality is.
Hmm.
So we went through different isms, right? We went through the classical era, the realism, when people didn't have photography. And so people had to paint things, so things had to be painted in high realism. And then, it went through like the Impressionist period where people were painting light and the effect of light on buildings and nature and so forth. And then it moved toward expressionism period where there's a feeling of we can augment reality in that sort of particular time period. And then followed by where we are right now, which is, straight to the modern area where there's so much work has been, I think, concentrating on deconstructing what is reality.
Wow.
So, and like the surrealism and Dadaism both tend to do that. So we're sort of we're still in that particular area where we're trying to even find out like what does that mean to us.
Mhm.
And I think it's really incumbent upon the writers and the musicians and the artists, these three people, the three subgroups, the creators, to create a vision for us to help us get from where we are, A, through the liminal space into B,
Mhm.
wherever B can be. And B is, do you want to create a world, a utopic society or a dystopic society? And we've got the power. Like, there's a lot of power in art and especially music, right? It moves us. It challenges us, and it stays in our hearts and our minds in a manner that other things can't. So, I mean, so we've got people like, Gene Roddenberry, who created the Star Wars series, and that's
Mhm.
a very utopic, beautiful
Star
vision.
Trek.
Star Trek, sorry, Star Trek. Oh, sorry, Star Trek. And then we've got like, Handmaid's Tale, right? Margaret Atwood, which it's another reality that could possibly happen in a very real way, right?
Mhm.
So, and then Ready Player One, and then we've got a whole plethora of people in between all of that, and then around surrounding that, who've created these realities that people in industry have looked at and kind of went, okay, we're going to draw inspiration from that. So then they draw inspiration from that, and then we've got Hololens, and then we've got AI, we've got robots, we've got all these different people like iRobot and so forth, Isaac Asimov, and it's, again, the vision was developed by the creators. So so in that area, I think that we're really trying to bring in certain voices, different voices from all over the world. From our vantage point, it's very Eurocentric. It's very USA centric. We don't hear about what's happening in Nicaragua. We don't hear what's happening in Nigeria. We don't know what's going on. And there's so many areas in the globe, in the world, that's harnessing different kind of creativities. Maybe they've even found situations that we would have never have even thought of because we haven't funded it. We don't know. So I think it's really important to bring in like a diverse voice.
I love that. And I love that you touched on music too, because that's so evocative in your work. I know Brian has something very profound to say, so I'm going to let him say
That's not
it.
that profound.
No pressure.
Um, I just listening to you.
Yeah.
The I don't want to use the word danger, but and I don't know what else to use. But all of this can quickly become noise,
Hmm.
and there is so much noise. There is so much input. I mean, the three of us are on Clubhouse right now.
Yeah.
We actually, Allison and I actually do a writers' room on Clubhouse, but you see all these discussions happening, and it reminds me. It's kind of like when you see a science fiction movie and the crazy person has a million and one voices in their head and they're talking all the time. And
Hmm.
if it weren't for meditation and if it weren't for a certain amount of discipline, uh, to be able to tamp this down. But that's not the only issue for me. The issue for me is you get someone who's vulnerable in one direction or the other, or someone who's angry in one direction or the other. And all of a sudden, they enter into this stream of noise. And artists and creators, we find different ways of focusing on what that is. But I think as all of this explodes, I mean, I just looking at the clubhouse analogy, everyone is
Hmm.
talking at once. There are people that
Yeah.
are listening. There are people that are responding. There are people that are reacting. I think it is a tremendous philosophical challenge because
Hmm.
even watching what happened at the United States Capitol, really
Right.
watching what happened, you go, wow, this went from this seed that was planted a year ago into
Hmm.
this, and people enrolling or being enrolled in what essentially, for better on one side, for worse on the other, is their vulnerabilities being played for propaganda purposes or being able, it doesn't matter what side you're on, you know. And so here you are as the artist in the middle,
Hmm.
um, and diverse voices to me are not just people of different races and different cultures. Diverse voices of me are for me as people of different experiences. So the
Thank you.
experience of a wealthy person and how they got there is as important and valuable as a person who has been in poverty and what their experience is. And the thing that they have in common is their humanity. And so, going
Right.
back to what you're talking about, Juliana, my God, this has gotten deep. Going back to what you're
Uh,
talking about, the artist chooses what is consistent, hopefully, with the heart and the message that they have to deliver. And then they have to hope or intend or pray or force or self promote so that that message is heard within all this noise.
And I just want to say, I think it's a really good moment, Brian, if we could run Juliana's piece, lest we forget.
Absolutely.
Uh,
Juliana, do you want to tell us what this is before we run it?
and the clue's in the title, right?
well, I mean, I created it as a homage to those who died in the war and who suffered great difficulties as a result. And I'm not just talking about those who died, but the generations who came afterward who had to deal with all of that because we're all attached in such a different, and in the same way, all like you said, humanity is all attached. So yeah, it's a literal piece, which I usually don't do a lot of literal pieces. So you can play
It
it.
just
And I
really
like
shows the diversity and range of your work.
exactly because it's so different. It's beautiful and vivid, but there's something very, very solitary about it that I really like.
Here we go.
Thanks. Yay.
It's beautiful.
Thanks. I
What,
think in all my pieces, I really strive to connect people with the silence because, you know, we try so much to be the A-type person. And that's, you kind of need that. You need to be that way. And I, granted, it's true. But we still tend to, a lot of us tend to over schedule our lives. You know, schedule this and da, 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 and then after that we'll get this and we'll get that and we'll get that and we'll get, you know, and again, a lot of people have been saying that COVID is the global reset, and it is. So we're back again trying to figure out how to do this. And I actually portray a lot of heroes because again, not just the hero's journey. But what does hero mean? Like how does it work? How does it influence us? How do we embrace our heroes? What is a hero? What maybe doesn't really have to be a person, but what are the qualities?
do you have thoughts on that in terms of the hero, like as one single person as the hero? Because I know that we both have read some work from Jeff that talks about collective journey and that there's not one hero. In terms of your thoughts on that and how that impacts on your work, and also how COVID has impacted upon your work. In fact, that we're, you know, we're all living in such a different way than we were.
Well, I'm also trying to parse out Jeff's work as well too because it's really quite dense. I actually, and it's amazing and it's extraordinary. I I'm looking at the virtues of what it means to be a hero, and
Mm-hmm.
that we can all be personal heroes in a collective sense, and that empowering people to take up creativity, to do cooking, to do whatever it is that makes them feel alive is really important.
Mm-hmm.
Because then when you begin tapping into what it is that's important to you, then you start to be able to form your own voice. Like,
Mm-hmm.
what is it you want to say? What is it? What is important to you? What can you reflect back from what you've seen in the way society is heading? Which way in the liminal space do you want to go? So um, I like what Jeff has to say, and
We're speaking of
in
Jeff
fact, he's
Gomez,
actually
just
helped
so
me.
the audience knows.
Yeah.
Um, I want to go back to your statement on hero and being able to be a hero. Um,
Mm.
I think, especially with all these superhero movies and Fantastic Four and you know and the dystopian heroes is in The Voice. Um, but I think one of the lessons was, you know, this is not a time of for heroes to be martyrs. I think it's quite the opposite. I think that in order for a hero to continue, and by hero I mean someone that is part of something larger than themselves
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
is not afraid to use their voice or their talent. Um, but I think the old airplane direction of put your own oxygen mask on first, it's like that reset that you're talking about, which is if you're going to do something heroic
Hmm.
and you don't want to be martyred and you want to continue to be a hero and not be killed off, the more you take care of yourself, the more then you'll be more equipped to have your voice in the world and if necessary take care of others. So I think there's this fundamental shift coming, and this could go, and we're in it, and this could go into so much. It can go into what's called Strauss-Howe generational theory and how what happens with each subsequent generation. But uh, in some ways, just like the Big Bang theory, it's like this could be a period of great awakening. And it could be that it's the artists, just like in the Renaissance, could be the
Hmm.
artists that document it and even
Hmm.
predict it.
But I think even take that slightly a step further, Juliana, I know you're very tuned in to like you've got a very healing sense to you and a therapeutic kind of approach. And I feel there's something about that. When I said I like the solitariness of being inside the headset with the tilt brush experience, to actually consciously create work in Tiltbrush that is therapeutic and does have healing qualities. I can see that in what you do, but I wonder if you've got any thoughts on progressing and taking that even further.
Funny that you should say. Um,
Oh, okay.
yeah. Well, we are. Well, the one thing that just came up in the last couple of days that I'm going to be. I was invited to work with the folks at Helium, and they do, work for post-traumatic stress
Oh, wow.
and anxiety and depression, and it's the ability to visually understand. And Brian,
Yeah, this is
you
Sarah
know,
Hill. Yes, we actually
Sarah,
should have
right?
Sarah Hill on.
Mm.
Oh, wow, that's so great. So we connected, and I'm going to be doing some visual work with her that hopefully will enable
I
others
think that
to.
is a brilliant collaboration. And for those that don't know, it's spelled HEALIUM, and you can find it on Oculus Quest.
Very nice.
And it has an AR application as well, correct?
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. And we were doing other work that's kind of secretive in a sense, I can talk to you about it a little bit later on. But I'm really excited about. You're right. I'm very excited about. I think artwork or anything, reading, writing, music, especially. As I'm so attuned to music. It's unbelievable. I played piano for like 6 years. Was really dreadful at it, but I never forgot what it did. Actually, seeing like the world as we move forward, actually embracing more sound, than visual, which is kind of interesting because sound is so evocative and actually brings up so many memories.
So the choice of the music and the musicians you work with in your pieces, that was one of the things that struck me too, because shifting the music can completely shift the mood of the piece. So I feel as well there are conscious decisions on your part as to the exactly the tone and the pace of the music in each of your pieces of work. Are they musicians and artists that you already know, or are they kind of you're working very much in a diverse community and you're raising up new and fresh voices? So I just was a little bit interested in the music side too.
Yeah, I mean, so I have used different people, right? And I have actually, I've also done a lot of sound design myself, which means that sound to me, like music and sound design, howling monkeys, gunshots. I've used alligator hisses and voices, and I've used a whole range of different of sounds to incorporate into the music to create that texture, of wonder. And you don't necessarily hear it. You can't hear it, but it's there. And
It's
when you
there.
I still get it, yeah.
It, I totally understand.
Okay,
When you mention that about how soundscape as opposed
right.
to visual
Soundscape.
landscape, what the
Mm.
influence of that was when we were doing My Brother's Keeper, I literally closed my eyes. First of all, I couldn't believe the sound library that this gentleman was using. Would that I could remember his name right now. I'm so into what you're saying. It's like everything's shifting out of my head. But the thing was, sitting in the middle of that sound studio in spatial oriented sound and
Right.
being put onto a battlefield and literally hearing bullets whiz by my head
Mhm.
and being in that environment and coming out of that environment in tears because I had a completely different experience without the visual. I mean, and let's face it, there are people that go through lives without sight, and that is the world they live in, such as Notes on Blindness. But so I totally get what you're saying, and it's very interesting because primarily now as we look at your work, you go, oh well, we're looking at the visual because our eyes are open, so we're completely captured by the visual. And when we're in the headset, of course we'd be captured by the visual. But one of the things that has always been my concern, and there's no guys that do it better in the world than Matt Marin and his crew at Here 360, is that immersive spatial oriented sound that actually can give you a chill and you're not even in the wind.
Yeah, yeah. It's I like how you say that because as much of a visual artist I'm more of an auditory person.
Interesting.
So a lot of my inspiration comes from the music first. and the soundscape first.
That's
This has
interesting.
been, I mean, I can't believe this second segment went so fast. There's so much more to talk about, and Juliana, I hope that you will join us on the writers' room on the clubhouse,
Oh.
because being there and talking about this, and it's all auditory, being there and talking about it, it will be great to have you participate in that as well. I would like to end with the last piece. If Allison and Juliana, you can tell us what we're looking at.
I think the last piece is Shriek and Sinisteria. Am I saying it right?
Yeah.
Okay. Tell us about this.
Well, I was actually conducting a tour of Jingleville on the very day that all of that other stuff
Quick,
happened.
tell us what
And
Jingleville is, because we haven't talked about it.
oh, okay. So I created my friend Nicholas Liang and I created a world, a VR world in alt space VR, and I did it for like when I do things in as a designer, I use human-centered design thinking to create each aspect of the world, and I created this a beautiful place that highlighted how you can sort of move through 360 space and how what components can actually affect how you experience the place. So I created a world tour out of it, and I had people like, oh, I had so many people come in through. It was like we had 1,000 people come in 3 weeks that during Christmas time, and I wasn't even ready for that. I had no idea. So we had people like Jackie Mori, who is one of my inspirations for that world. Jackie Mori, a couple of weeks ago, sorry, a couple of months ago, put up a picture of a firefly. Do you remember that?
I do remember
On
that.
Facebook. Yeah. And then I was so enthralled with that I thought to myself, I want to create something that evokes the same emotion. Um, and then weeks later, Charlie Fink connected with me, and he wanted to bring a tour through that world too. And I think I conducted 2 classes with him. And it turned out that that was the day that the violence occurred at the Capitol.
And I
And,
think good things said about you from those couple of master classes or workshops, weren't there?
Yes, I think so.
Well, let's go. So the piece is the result of that inspiration, yes?
Yeah, exactly.
All right, then. Let's go to it. You know what?
Mhm.
I have an idea. We really need to come back and just do a segment on this piece alone. To have you walk us through, well, to have the impression, us tell you our impression, and have like an art appreciation segment, uh, so that we really be, because we don't have enough time to do this now, and it's an absolute shame because there is so much in this piece, and there's so much that I want to discuss. So I think we should book you for just that segment, like Juliana Loh, art appreciating Juliana Loh, and go through that. I think that would be wonderful. Allison, I put you on the spot with that. I'm sorry, but what do you think?
Great idea. One of the loveliest things I ever remember doing was going to the National Gallery in London, and I walked around and looked at everything, and then I did it again with the tour. and getting that understanding like of the artist's intention, it just made every single piece of art come to life in my head in a way that it never would have done before. So I'm all over that idea, Brian. I think that would be great to have Juliana back to do that.
That would be great. So
I'm overwhelmed. Thank you.
unfortunately, so television like. I'm sorry, we're out of time. Unfortunately, we're out of time for today, but boy, oh boy, what a pleasure and what a joy to spend this time with you. It's provocative, it's thought provoking, it's emotionally touching. It's all the things I would think an artist would want to accomplish, and you did that.
Well, thank you. Coming from like the two top storytellers whom I follow, and it's true. It's so much, and I think I just want to thank you both for enriching storytelling. So in the ways that you've done, and I've seen your evolution as well too. And if I could, Allison, I would jump into your workshop like ASAP. I don't know who Allison Norrington really is and what she can bring to the table. So
yeah, really nice of you to say that, Juliana. Thank you.
Well, terrific. So thanks everyone for watching the Story Hour again. Be sure to subscribe and hit the bell if you want to know when the next episode is. And we will see you the next time. Thank you, Juliana, and goodbye, Allison.
Goodbye. Thank you.
bye.